podcast. This is Erin.
And I'm Josh.
And this week we are going to celebrate our motherfucking country, love it or leave it, the United States, with Born on the 4th of July by Oliver Stone.
Wow, that was a really good introduction.
Thank you.
You really went out on that one.
I'm so tired of this fucking country, Josh.
Yeah. And it's our 250th anniversary, so there's a bunch of stuff going on in this country about it. Lots of merch and stuff, and I think we both kind of agree that we weren't very patriotic, so we weren't going to do a big patriotic type movie. So when we were discussing it, because we were saying Independence Day at first, which kind of fun movie, like it destroys
incredibly fun movie. Yeah. I love Independence Day, but at the same time, like, I am not in the mood this year, or indeed for the past 10 years, to celebrate America. And this, I remember when we were coming up with ideas for what we wanted to do for Independence Day, you and your dad both suggested Born on the 4th of July, and I was like, that sounds horrible, just based on the title. That sounds terrible and I don't like it. And you were both like, oh no, you'll like it, and we'll get into it. But when I was first watching the movie, I was like, I hate this. This is terrible. Josh and his dad have terrible taste in movies. But I was brought around by the end.
Yeah, like you said, we'll touch base on it, because I remember only seeing parts of this movie, because I thought I saw all of it, because I love Oliver Stone movies. And when we go into the specs of a little bit of this movie, Oliver Stone, he's a great filmmaker, but he goes into like films with facts. And
I was noticing
stuff like that. I think I was also mentioning possibly maybe something like conspiracy theories, because he has the JFK movie. But I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories with the JFK assassination and just controversy with him and his family. And even today with his freaking grandson being our Department of Health secretary bullshit. Yeah, it's Born 4th of July. You want me to just jump into the specs here? All right,
go for it.
Directed by Oliver Stone, written by Oliver Stone, and Ron Kovic. Yeah. Based on the book that Ron Kovic wrote about his life during Vietnam.
Called Born on the 4th of July. It did not occur to me that this was going to be a biopic until literally the last 5 minutes. Because for some reason it just hit me all of a sudden. I was like, not to be a shitty person, but that's a pretty, like, quote unquote, un-American name for a person who's like the hero of a movie called Born on the 4th of July. You'd think they'd pick a lot more Anglo name. That's a kind of a like Eastern European name. Yeah. And I went and I looked it up and I was like, this guy is real. Thank you, Mr. Kovac, for your service. He's still alive. Good for him. I don't have coherent words. Mr. Kovac, you'll never listen to this, but thank you.
Maybe he will.
For your service. Thank you. Not just for your military service. I want to be clear. Thank you for your protesting service, sir. Well done.
Absolutely. So we got Ron Kovic being starred as Tom Cruise. Yep. He's really the main star. There's some other big names in this movie, but they don't get the spotlight like Tom Cruise does.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe pops up.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe pops up. He's kind of an actor that likes to pop up in Oliver Stone movies. 3 of the Baldwin brothers are in this film.
What?
William Baldwin, Daniel Baldwin, Stephen Baldwin, but they do not share screen time with each other, because
I didn't even notice a single Baldwin brother.
The two that I remember, I was like, hey, that's one of the Baldwins, and that's another Baldwin, and I couldn't remember. One of them is in the Vietnam Patrol group with him, and then the other one is down there in Mexico, and also Stephen Baldwin plays Billy Vorshovic. Was that the one that gets shot? I think that was the one that got shot. His name was Bill. Or maybe it was one of his friends.
It might be one of his friends.
Oh, but Tom Berenger is in this. He's the Marine recruiter at the high school. Oh, he's in Oliver Stone's platoon. He's one of the main guys in there. So the actor that I recognized, I was surprised he was in this movie for really quick, was Tom Sizemore.
What would I know him from?
You've seen him in movies, sure, but you haven't seen very many movies, but that's what he looks like.
I do recognize his face. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen him and stuff. He's in Saving Private Ryan. He's in Black Hawk Down. There's quite a few other ones. But those are like his other war movies. Those ones are all good too. Okay. Oliver Stone has directed Platoon, which Willem Dafoe is a pretty big character in that movie. He's done Wall Street, The Doors. Are you familiar with The Doors? Obviously
with Nicole Kidman? Oh, the Doors, the band.
So there's a biopic movie that he's done for that.
I do know what you're talking about.
Like I said, the JFK film, and then Natural Born Killers. Those are some of the spotlight movies that Oliver Stone has done that I've seen and have enjoyed.
What a filmography.
Yeah. There's plenty more that Oliver Stone has done. Those are just some of the major films that he is famous for. Let me go back to some of the actors. Like I said, William Dafoe, Raymond J. Barry, Jerry Levine, and Kira Cedric. They're all kind of big names, but they all have small roles. The other little thing that I didn't realize that this is a second film of a trilogy.
What?
Oliver Stone is doing a Vietnam story trilogy.
Whoa.
So obviously Platoon is the first one because it's like they're in Vietnam. And then this one with kind of the aftermath of, Vietnam and that kind of political counterpart. But the third movie is called Heaven and Earth. And that one's about a young Vietnamese woman who is dealing with going through all the stuff there in Vietnam, like the war and like the Americans coming and kind of being a sex worker, and then getting married and then moving to the United States.
Interesting.
It's kind of harder to find, which I don't know why, because it's got Tommy Lee Jones in it.
Wow.
And he's like the main American actor, but I would assume they're all Vietnam actors, but they may not be. That is also a biopic.
Whoa.
Yep. So this movie won Best Director Oscar in 1990.
Understandable.
And it won Best Editing as well.
Yep.
And was nominated for a bunch of everything. Best Film, Best Actor. I don't know if there was Best Supporting Role or Female Role because there wasn't really a bunch of that. But I don't recall when I looked it up.
Yeah.
Well, released in January 5th of 1990 on a $14 million budget. And I think it got back $161 million.
Whoa. Very
in
nice.
1990.
Very nice.
Yeah, and it's a biopic of Ron Kovic's time in Vietnam and his time after Vietnam as he becomes kind of more aware of what Vietnam was about and becoming a political activist and protesting for at least Vietnam veteran rights, but all veteran rights and protesting any unnecessary wars, which as we've had our history in the United States, we've had quite a few in the last 30-40 years per se.
Yep.
Those are really the specs of this movie that I got. So you want to jump into any discussions you got? Because I'll just say I enjoyed this movie and there's some very interesting things to talk about. So
no, I loved this movie. It felt to me like a stronger biopic than Mill, just because it felt like it hung together better as a story. It felt more focused.
Probably really worked well to keep that story and the focus is that Ron still alive.
Worked on the
screenplay.
Yeah.
After probably the book had been out that he wrote for a time.
About 10 years, yeah. I will say my heart was hardened against it because the title, Born on the 4th of July, it sounds so patriotic. It's about the Vietnam War. That's a subject where you can go either direction. I don't remember who it was, but there was someone who said that every anti-war movie is actually a pro-war movie. And what he was trying to get at is that when you try to make war look crappy, all you actually do is make war look really cool. And I was so worried this was just going to be a movie that is anti-war on the surface, but actually doesn't war look cool? Like, look at all these young guys shooting their guns and being like badass, muscled up, whatever. I was prepared to be pissed. And also the fact that Ron Kovic was a Marine. My youngest brother was a Marine. My dad was in the Air Force. My middle brother was in the Air Force. My uncle went to Vietnam in the Army. And so I was prepared to violently hate on this movie. And I couldn't do it. It really brought me around. It's starts out with all this boomer nostalgia of like, you know, the Independence Day parade and everybody loves looking at veterans and ooh, isn't it great that they were horrifically maimed for their country?
Well, yeah, like you said, it's the boomer stuff because it's right after. Well, it's not right after. It's years after World War II. Yeah,
in like I think the early 1960s.
Yeah, because I think Ron was born like right after war because his father fought in the war, and they do talk about, you know, his time. And when we get to Ron in his teen years, like he's pretty much gun ho to go join and enlist. Then we start, you know, the escalation of communists over there in Vietnam starts to pick up, and he's like, "Well, I'm going right now."
That's right. I gotta go right now because like communism is bad, and I couldn't tell you what communism is except that it's bad. Yeah, I feel that.
But it definitely, watching that first part, it definitely felt like this is the Americana of that time.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the whole patriotism is so high, and like, you know, everyone's at the, you know, the whole town's at the 4th of July parade, and like they're celebrating veterans. Which I think, they should celebrate the veterans.
Yeah.
No matter what wars and what reasons, but it definitely shows, you know, the pathway of like the different generations and the different times of the war.
Well, and that's the thing that for me, part of the reason that I was prepared to really hate this movie is like, not to kind of give you my thesis statement, but I interpreted it as when I first came into the movie, I was like, okay, this is going to be a movie that's like, man, war really sucks, but it's a good thing we do it. And it's not.
No.
It is aggressively not that movie.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk about like camera work and the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
They do some really cool camera work and lighting stuff, particularly with the protests and at the end, the Democratic National Convention that I'm really excited to talk about. But when it first started, I don't know, I'm a pinko commie leftist piece of shit, and I was very prepared to watch a movie that's like, you know, communism sucks and it's bad that people had to get PTSD and be paralyzed and die just to end communism, but isn't it great that we ended communism? And as a pinko leftist piece of shit, I'm like, is it good? And this movie didn't do that.
No.
And I was kind of in love with the fact that it took itself seriously. If I had known ahead of time that this was a biopic for a real person, I would have had a lot more hope because I can't, again, I had an uncle who went to Vietnam as a young person. He came back and he was as okay as you could expect to be coming back from Vietnam. And even he was like, wow, what a fucking waste. And I think that's the most conservative position that you can reasonably hold on Vietnam is, wow, what a fucking waste.
Yeah.
And I
think Ron Kovic would agree with you on that one too at this point.
He would. And so I wasn't prepared to agree with this movie, and in the end it brought me around and I was like, it's okay. Anyway, you go. I don't have anything coherent.
I like you just touched on like the lighting and the camera work. They do, like, Oliver Stone is just a great director when it comes to that stuff and the visuals. Did you notice how they use the lighting for red, white, and blue?
No, talk to me about it.
You didn't. Okay.
How did I not notice that?
So they use red, white, and blue for some of the emotions. Obviously, red is for the anger that Ron serves. Blue for the depression, and then white is for the dream sequences.
What? I can't believe I missed that. I only watched it one time, but that's so fucking cool. What the fuck?
Yeah.
The thing I was gonna comment on is the fact that you have your first like kind of PTSD-ish vibe during that first 4th of July parade when Ron's a young boy.
Well, I think
and you get a little bit of flashing. But then they increase the flashing over time where like you get a lot of flashing while he's in Vietnam, and then you get kind of commensurate flashing when he's back at home and he's going through the 4th of July parade, when he's at the various protests, and it draws this line between like combat is this overwhelming, scary, and confusing situation that there are actually a lot of analogs to, and it ends up making you really sympathize for the fact that, especially if you're a veteran, there's a lot of situations where for a person who has never been in combat, you are not necessarily going to think to yourself like, oh yeah, this is really scary. But for someone who has been in combat, I can only imagine it's terrifying.
Yeah. And there's really not a lot of Vietnam combat in this movie. We get
There's way less than I thought.
Yeah, we get his time served there, and I think those shots are and it's really traumatic and brutal what they're doing, because like they come up to a
gosh.
village, and they and that's like also part of like the experience that a lot, and I hope that your uncle didn't have to experience that, because in this movie Ron experienced, they shot up the village and killed children and women and just innocent people. There was no enemies there, and that's the trauma that a lot of the Vietnam vets have, is going to these villages because of the Viet Cong. It was the guerrilla style that they were not in those villages. They were away and doing their tactics. I'm not super knowledgeable of their tactics, which I've been learning after watching this. I did watch the Ken Burns Vietnam documentary. So the trauma of that, on top of they got ambushed and Ron accidentally kills one of his own soldiers.
Yeah.
Because of how chaotic and how that was filmed.
PFC.
How that was filmed was intense, because he even explains it, and then like later on. Well, like how crazy everything was.
Right immediately after he tries to explain it to a superior officer, and the superior officer's like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I reject your framing of what happened, blah, blah, blah. And it takes him a lot of the movie to be able to get somebody to listen to him.
Well, and also to kind of, I wouldn't say get over that, but to overcome his mistake.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I felt so bad for him in this movie, because so much in life that's traumatizing is actually like, there's a lot of things where if it happens, it'll traumatize you no matter what. You just kind of can't avoid it. But there are certain kinds of trauma where keeping silent about it will make you even more traumatized. And this was that kind of thing. I felt so bad for him that the Marines trying to tell him this never happened.
Move on, soldier.
Yeah, they were trying.
That's the mentality, was move on. We got next mission.
Yeah.
We're going to brush this under the rug.
They were trying to make it so that he didn't feel bad.
Yeah.
And what happened was it wound up making him feel worse.
Yeah.
If they had just given him the space to be upset about it and tell him like, hey man, that's war, and war fucking sucks, and nobody likes it. It's really bad. You did the best that you could with the information you had, and like, I don't know, man. I can't imagine that it would have been something that you could overcome quickly. It's not the thing you can come over or overcome in a couple of hours or a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
I don't think
still
in that time frame,
shutting it down was the wrong choice.
The time frame and the time period, that was just not a thing. You move on. Having those kind of emotions is like, no, dude, you don't talk about those things. It makes me wonder to look up like how many people back then were therapists and counselors that went through that. Probably not very many.
Not a lot.
So even for the military, like having that for the military, for people that suffered trauma.
People didn't have the term shell shock didn't come about until World War One. People were aware that soldiers would come back from wars fucked up beyond belief, but we didn't have a term for it until World War One. And even in World War One, the sense was kind of like, okay, well, like, you had a bad time,
but it's war.
I don't know what you were expecting. And it took a long time. It took easily until Vietnam before people were like, oh, this is bad. This is really, really, really bad.
Well, on top of like us knowing about the bad things of Vietnam, is like there was more news broadcast of Vietnam compared to obviously World War II, World War One. Definitely not World War One, and any other conflicts. And then you look at Vietnam up in today, we have press that go there and they're filming live.
Yeah.
And so
that's actually such a great point, because I think that media coverage difference is we really take it for granted, because prior to World War One, you would learn about it because somebody would come back to your town and be like, I was in the war and it sucked.
Yeah.
And then in World War One, there was like a minor amount of press coverage where they would cover the deaths of literally hundreds of thousands of people per battle. World War Two, you had like film reels, but then once you got to like Korea and Vietnam, there were reporters who were on the ground.
Yep.
There are some of the most horrific photographs I've ever seen in my life from Vietnam, showing the reality as it was on the ground, and it was terrible, nasty, horrible stuff. I'm an old time person from the internet. I have seen all the gore sites, all the shock sites. I don't get scandalized very easily, but the photos from Vietnam are a lot.
Yeah.
The things that the soldiers were made to do is a lot. And I think they did a great job of capturing that in the movie, where the commanding officer's like, you see those rifles? You see those rifles? And the camera's just like zipping around the landscape. And you're like, I can't see shit. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
But then Tom Cruise feels like he has to say like, yep, I see what you're talking about.
Yep.
And then of course they wind up killing a shitload of civilians, including a bunch of tiny kids. And it made me feel bad because I knew I was going to have to do this podcast with you later. But I was like, those kids are your kids' ages. What the fuck? Sorry, I'm getting very riled up. I'm going to try to reel it in.
Reel it in, Erin.
I'm going to try to reel it in.
Get your composure.
So mad though.
So they have their little conflict there, and they're getting ambushed, and Ron accidentally shoots one of his men, and then they're on a mission because he gets no closure with his superior officer about it. He just tells him to move on. You got to think of the superior officers like, I got no time to do with you. I need you at least some level-headed to go out and fight this war.
Yeah. So
they're going on another mission, and it's all hell breaks loose. They're ambushed again, and they're getting shot up. This is where Ron is badly wounded. Yeah. And when badly wounded, he is paralyzed. Yeah. From his wound.
Well, I thought it was so interesting. This is something that comes up later, but the shot of the other Marine coming and picking him up and carrying him across the battlefield is something that does get like picked up. It does. A thematic thread that gets picked up later in the movie, and I thought it was so beautifully done because you're watching this movie. Tom Cruise is obviously the main character. They're not gonna kill him, but at the same time, you're like, this guy's fucked. Is Tom Cruise gonna be okay?
Yep. Yeah. Then we move on to
the VA hospital.
The VA hospital, which probably is just as worse as fighting in the front.
I gotta tell you, I took one look at that VA hospital. I was like, oh, okay, they're being realistic about the VA hospital.
I think
I have a low opinion of
as
VA
very
hospitals.
Realistic as possible, and especially during the wartime where their budget is probably nothing, and they have So he finds out he is paralyzed from is it the basically like the arms down?
It's the chest down.
Chest down? Yeah.
Actually, I thought that was kind of funny because he starts out, he's kind of like running around on crutches, and at one point he falls down. And this kind of took me out of the movie a little bit because he had this open fracture on his femur. And I'm like, how are you breaking your actual entire femur from falling backwards? It's the biggest, densest bone in your body. Are you crazy? Listen, the fact that it's a biopic, it tells me something like that must have happened in real life, but it almost took me out of the movie because I was like, no, you don't just break your femur from falling backwards. Are you high?
Yeah,
But I don't doubt that something like that happened to him. God.
Yeah, and so it's not a great time at the VA hospital.
The VA hospital's disgusting.
They're understaffed, and they got all these guys that they're trying to take care of. And
all
it's
of them have PTSD. Yep. There's fucking rats. Yep. There's not enough medication. All of them are like self-medicating on any drugs they can get their hands on.
Yeah. It was not a good time. That was probably honestly like my least favorite part of the movie, just because it was not a good time.
No.
And it was just kind of seeing how sad the care was. And like, I mean, there were some characters, some of the, I don't know how you call them, orderlies, I guess, that were trying to really, like the one guy that really kind of helped him, but it was just looked so rough that these guys were really poorly taken care of.
Yeah.
And
well, and again, it kind of made me feel slightly vindicated because I've never heard of a veteran who thinks that the VA hospital is worth, the 2 pennies it takes to rub together to make it come into existence, because because every single one of the people who I know who've ever been to the VA hospital have said universally that it is shit. Like, is there piss all over the floor today? Probably not. Are there literal rats in the hallways today? Probably not. But also, the care you're going to get at the VA hospital is crap because the Department of Defense doesn't care.
Well, it's
Department of Veterans.
War. Department of War now because they changed it.
Eat my dick, the United States government.
Yeah, they changed it back to Department of War because that's what it used to be called during World War II. Now it's back to that because they think we need to be masculine. Yeah, sorry to ruin your... You
can be masculine while you choke on my fucking cock, you pieces of shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be chill, but I can't. I can't because I have so many people who are involved in this.
And this is a pretty emotional movie. Like, I just thought it was funny that we had some pretty good emotional movies during Pride, and then we decided this movie. I was like, man, we are on an emotional roller coaster.
What is wrong with us?
Doing this to ourselves. Yeah, so he breaks a bone in his leg falling when he's trying to do the crutches, and they have to pretty much repair that leg, but he gets an infection. So they have like, what is it's an antibiotic machine, like
some kind of pump.
Yeah, to pump out the blood and stuff, and I think it like doesn't work or sucks.
Yeah.
And
no, it doesn't suck. That's the problem.
That's true. It doesn't suck out the blood and put in, better blood. But even a doctor comes in and is like, yeah, we just had a new one, or money to buy one, or something like that. He's like, I don't know about your leg, and so they're all pretty much telling him like, we might have to cut this leg off because it's gonna get infected, and it's not gonna be good for you.
Exactly.
And so they got him all like tied to a bed type thing where he's like kind of straight up, and I think it's like, I don't know if it's like kind of portrayed as like a miracle or something, but like I guess the machine starts working and he doesn't have to lose his leg.
Yeah. Sometimes technology just does start to work again for no particular reason. So I've been there.
Yeah.
It's annoying, but like, hey, we can't complain. But yeah, then he ends up going home, and that's its own kind of can of worms.
Yeah.
Because they do a really good job of making it clear that maybe internally, on a level that he won't even recognize, he agrees that what happened to him and the other soldiers who went to Vietnam isn't fair, and it isn't right, and it doesn't make sense. But he's also got this cognitive dissonance where he doesn't want to admit, like, I got my life completely destroyed by a bunch of politicians who could not personally tell me without buzzwords the reason that I went over there in the face. And it's really sad to watch him freak out, like, at his brother, who says, hey, it's not cool, I don't want more people to go to Vietnam and get hurt. And he basically, his brother doesn't put it that kindly, but at the same time, the sentiment is there, and the way that he interprets it is, you're useless and bad now that you've been hurt. And that's not what his brother's trying to say at all. I understand, when you make a bad decision in your life, it's really easy to just double down and think to yourself like, well, this was the only decision I could have made, this was the only way that it could have turned out, blah blah blah. And he spends most of the movie in that mindset. That's where the whole love it or leave it thing comes from. And I remember that from 9/11. Do you remember that too?
Kinda, because not to like really get off subject, because like I will say, not to go into like a big tangent, I guess is the right way to say it, but I definitely saw lots of similarities during the 9/11 time, when it became this whole patriotic, pro-American, anti-terrorist, leading into this like anti-Muslim stuff that we have today.
And it's not even as bad today as it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was nuts.
To the whole anti-communist, we gotta go, fight. Because I was 8th grade when 9/11. I think you were probably already in high school.
I was a senior.
Yeah. And I probably would have definitely fallen into the trap of, oh, I gotta go serve for my country because of what had happened.
I'm so glad
and that's the same thing. And I had a lot of friends, and I knew a lot of people that did the same thing, because it has the big similarities between, the Vietnam War era and our 9/11 anti-terrorist era, or Afghanistan and Iraq.
Well, and like no one can tell you why are we going over there
exactly
without buzzwords.
Yeah, it's like, well, we're fighting terrorists. I'm like, okay, but like, really, why are we going over there? It's like, well, we don't want to have terrorists anymore. It's like, well, I don't think that's really solving, and I don't think we've actually solved anything.
Well, and to be totally honest, like, terrorism is a tactic. It's not a category of person.
It's not.
And so, like, as long as the tactic exists, you're not going to be able to get rid of the people who use the tactic.
It's like Antifa right now that they're trying to push. Like, it's anti-fascism. It's not a group. But anyways, to get away from the tangent, he's still believing that, his time served was for something, even though he's lost.
Because the alternative would be devastating.
Yes. But you definitely, and I was absolutely hoping that he would finally figure it out that, Vietnam was a mistake and that he lost so much for really nothing.
Yeah.
And that he suffered all this, and it does go that way, and the movie does a great time. The story, I think it's just the writing with Oliver Stone and Ron there do so well to deliver the story.
Well, I thought one of the things that really hits me in particular with any movie about Vietnam was I was an AP student in high school. I love history. I
was the same.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, I'm an expert on the Vietnam
War. Oh, absolutely.
Or
I am not an expert in any of these things.
But
do I love learning about it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, like, I remember, like, people are telling him, like, no one can tell us what it's for. No one can tell us why this is happening. And I feel like I have a better handle on it than your average American. And the short version is colonialism.
Colonialism. Yes.
And like that's such a shitty reason to send a bunch of Americans over to defend French colonialism. What the fuck?
I'm glad you touched that, because I will once again promote Ken Burns' Vietnam documentary, because that's where it starts. And yes, that is pretty much the reason why we did go to Vietnam. It's not about
communism.
I mean, they did not like, the Cold War and communists there. But that's
not the reason.
It was
It was French colonialism.
Yeah.
We were defending French colonialism.
Yeah.
Boo!
Yeah.
America?
It was stupid. So he starts going down the pathway of realizing, well, it's very bumpy road. Very bumpy road, because he does get to go see the I would say could have been his girlfriend, wife, but Donna. the girl, what was her name?
Dawn.
Okay, I couldn't remember it, but he visits her at college. What do you remember the college
it
was?
Syracuse.
It was Syracuse. I knew it was like in New York, but I couldn't remember which college it was, because they mentioned, is it Kent State?
Yeah.
Because Kent State had the protest where
there was so much stuff that I wanted to look up as a result of this movie, and I didn't realize it was essentially nonfiction until the last 5 minutes, and so I was like, oh fuck, I should have watched this like a week ago.
So he's meeting her, they're getting together, and she's totally an activist in college. She's doing the protests for Vietnam.
I think she's the first person to kind of like crack open his heart a little bit to understand, like, when I say that Vietnam is unfair and shouldn't happen, I'm not saying I blame you. I'm saying you were a victim of a much larger system that should never have victimized you.
And he's seeing other Vietnam vets at those protests, and they're all yelling, they gave me a Purple Heart, they gave me this, medal. I won't say the Medal of Honor, but it's like a medal of some kind of like honorary something. And
I don't want to call it.
It's got a certain title. And they're like, take this and shove it, because that was bullshit. You're not doing anything for me now. You gave me false promises here. So she does open up him quite a bit.
But it was so sad sad to watch the protests. And like, I don't want to say it's exactly the same or whatever, but at the same time, it's not that different than the protests that we have these days. And it's so sad to look at the fact that, you know, any time as a peaceful demonstrator in American history, you're gonna get your ass fucking beat. You might die. You might go to jail. It was so disheartening. I mean, in a different way, it was really galvanizing to be like, they've been doing this to us for years and we're not gonna stop.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it was like, Jesus Christ, has anything ever changed?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. We're working on it.
Yeah. So I think his realization of just so much really just kind of falls him into like just I guess an abyss of emotions and stuff, because he really kind of falls off. You know, he has that big argument with his family,
which I love,
which was a great one. I love it. Fuck you, Mom, don't say that. Slaps him. I was like,
the way that he's like my penis, and she's like, don't say that word.
That's right. I totally forgot about that, because his family is, I think especially his mom is Catholic. super religious, and he's yelling, my penis doesn't work. He's pulling out his catheter, and like,
it wasn't funny, but I'm laughing.
And I will say this: I worked with people that had catheters, and they've pulled them out, and it is not a fun experience.
Oh, I bet.
Seeing
I can't
it
even imagine.
and having to deal with it. But also when you're upset, and that's the one thing that you can kind of control.
Yeah.
Like, people are gonna do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole argument and him getting thrown out. You know, the bar scene where he's about to start a bar fight with a guy, and the guy is just
the guy was from Iwo Jima. It was Marine v Marine.
Yeah, which is interesting, like how he's just like, stop your complaining. I was like,
bro, if anybody in the world should get it. I messaged Jordan at the beginning when I saw that he was going to join the Marines. I was like, hey man, have you ever seen this movie? Because I was like, I need somebody's real ass perspective on this. Because yeah, when he got up to that scene, like, Iwo Jima was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell this guy like, oh, you don't get it. Yeah, it wasn't like Vietnam. But at the same time, like, Iwo Jima was shitty. But you weren't killing kids and civilians on Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima had no civilians. It was all
military.
And
so like, I don't want to tell you, hey, you had a walk in the park compared to this Vietnam vet, but like, at the same time,
well, they're different wars too, to kind of
that he would have a little more sympathy for the position that Ron was in. I was like, dude, solidarity, a little more solidarity. I don't know. Any Marines, sound off in the comments whether or not I'm being unfair, because that blew my mind.
Yeah.
As a one combat vet to another, I would imagine you would have a little more sympathy than that.
Apparently not that guy.
Guy.
And then there was like talks of going to Mexico. I didn't think at that time when he was like mentioning it to, because he was about to like pick up this girl and go to Mexico. And next scene after the fight with the family, he's in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, it seems like this spot that he went to somehow found out or whatever. It's like veterans
Via Dulce. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it, so I don't know like which coast it was on. It felt West Coast to me, but
probably. But yeah, it's like all these vets are there. They're all, you know, in wheelchairs, like Willem Dafoe. This is where we see Willem Dafoe's character.
Yeah.
He was crazy.
He was crazy. Willem Dafoe does crazy so well, though.
Yeah, those were the Mexico stuff was kind of funny, because this is where he's just drinking and prostitution.
It seemed like he was trying to find a way to escape as much as possible. And like, on the one hand, you know, good for you, trying to get as far away from your problems as possible. But on the other hand, like, you can't, and the movie does address this, you can't run away from a guilty conscience. The only way to address it is to turn back around and face it.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting. I was prepared for the movie to treat the Mexican sex workers with like absolute contempt. And actually, I felt like they were reasonably like sympathetic.
Uh-huh.
They did a good job of making it clear, like, these ladies are here to do a job. I felt for them, like, what a shitty situation it is to be forced into that kind of work, but at the same time, like, the valuable service that they're providing.
Yeah.
Because these poor guys, they show it a lot throughout the movie that Ron, despite the fact that he's not dead, cannot seem to get any, like, actual, not even, like, sexual intimacy. Like, person-to-person intimacy.
And I think,
someone who sees him as a human.
Yeah, and I think he, if I'm not remembering correctly, but I think he talked about not having sex, even before he went.
Yeah.
Because, with Donna, they were in high school still, and they kissed a few times, but they never...
Well, and his mom yells at him about his Playboy magazine.
Yes, that's true. The Playboy. Yeah, I almost forgot about the
You're
Playboy.
not supposed to dingle your doingle.
Yeah. Exactly, especially when you're a Catholic family. But yeah, because he was very worried about, nothing works down there. And she's just like, yeah, let me do my thing.
Yep.
I'll do my thing. You paid for a service, so I'm doing a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and the thing I think that kind of gets highlighted there is that when you grow up really, really religious, you think of sex as being one thing, and actually it's a much broader thing than anybody allows you to think. And so, yeah, I choose to believe that he had a great time.
Uh-huh.
He had a grand old time.
Well, it's a point where I think he wanted to be with that one prostitute, but he probably should never try to marry a prostitute. But
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say never marry a sex worker, but at the same time, like,
I mean, they do get married. They do,
but like that's not her job.
Yeah,
her job is to make you to provide a service, and you shouldn't get your emotions tangled up in the provision of the service. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So then, Willem Dafoe's character, I don't remember his name.
Charlie.
Is it Charlie? Okay.
It is. Which I thought was so funny that his name is Charlie, because that was one of the nicknames for the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
So Charlie and him get kicked out of pretty much it's like the brothel there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember exactly where they were heading to, but they were in a taxi and they get an argument with the taxi driver, and he just leaves them there in their wheelchairs in the middle of nowhere.
And then they get into a giant fight.
Yep.
And I was like, you guys are cute.
Yeah.
But I understand, man, what a terrible position to be put into, that you're arguing with another person about whether or not they have ever killed a baby.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus. These two guys are fucked up. And I was really afraid for Ron at that point, because I was like, how much lower it could go, my guy?
Yeah.
Like, getting into a fight in the middle of the Mexican desert about whether or not you've killed a baby? Jesus Christ. And so it was actually kind of a relief to see that he went to Georgia. Yeah, go ahead.
So that's where he goes to the family for
the PFC that he killed.
Yeah, to kind of finally overcome that trauma and just the emotions of, like, I'm the reason why your son, and I think he had a wife and a kid there too.
Yep.
And I think that was a very good turning moment for him to finally get that just off of his chest, to be like, if I can kind of just relieve this where it was so suppressed.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is he was able to finally tell them about, like, killing that civilian family.
Yeah. Well, like, the whole, almost the replay of Vietnam was that, because I will say, I don't know if your uncle ever had replays of Vietnam events that he was in, but
Not that I'm aware of.
I dated this girl in high school, and we went to have dinner with her grandparent, and the grandpa had a Vietnam,
like a
flashback at dinner. I don't know exactly how it got brought up, but, like, he was talking about his time really quick, and I think my friends, he was like, we were sitting around having dinner like this, kind of like this or something like that, and me and my buddy were sitting there chatting, and the next I knew, my buddy's brains were all over me and he was dead. And then grandma was like, okay, well, let's move on to something else. And I could see, like, the change from where he was happy at the very beginning of the conversation to how sad. And so this is where I think this is what Ron was doing when he was talking to them. He started off like he wanted to talk to them about this, but it flashed back to the whole events.
That's something that they did such a great job with throughout the movie, is they kind of start to put you into his flashback, where you can hear the helicopter. They
the
change
baby noise, the baby crying.
The baby crying. You can see like the change of the color tone on the camera to better match what had been happening in Vietnam. Actually, I thought that was really great. You go from that softly lit, all white prom situation. They're playing Moon River quietly over the scene to just the most hellish orange and stark black burnt tree trunks with just the sound of helicopters, fire, and it was a very stark difference. And they keep coming back to those sounds, that color palette, to the flashing of the lights. They do that when Ron comes back and he's in the parade. They do that at the first protest. They do that at the protest with Nixon. Also, I would like to go on the record as saying, I hope you're burning in hell, Richard Nixon, and I hope that Henry Kissinger is triple burning in triple hell. I'm probably going to cut this out, but there's a podcast that I listen to that I really like called Respect the Dead. Their tagline is the podcast where we don't. And basically what they do is they talk about genuinely the shittiest people. They have an 1.5-hour long episode about Christopher Columbus where they're talking about him and his people like bashing babies' heads into rocks and raping women to death.
He did a lot of horrible things to any natives that he found.
And like literally massacring the Taino people. And
he has a holiday.
I listened to that whole thing. I cried through most of it. It was really bad. Okay. They also have a 2-hour episode about Henry Kissinger, and I had to stop halfway through. I didn't have to stop halfway through on Christopher Columbus, but I had to stop halfway through on Henry Kissinger, and I have never returned to that episode because it made me too sad and angry. Henry Kissinger can triple burn and triple hell. I fucking hate him. I am not a violent person. I don't have violent impulses. I don't want bad things to happen to people, even bad people, except for Henry Kissinger. I think it's Anthony Bourdain said that, like, if you ever learn about the history of Cambodia, it'll just make you want to beat Henry Kissinger to death with your bare hands or something like that. And yeah. Yeah, Anthony Bourdain was right. I don't want to hurt anybody except Henry Kissinger, who I would like to beat to death with my bare hands. And him and Nixon were the architects of extending the Vietnam War. Johnson wanted to end it. The American public wanted to end it.
Yep.
Everybody wanted to end it. But in order to win his first presidential campaign, Kissinger and Nixon decided to extend the fucking Vietnam War. I'm sorry I'm screaming. I'm really mad about it. I'm not going to stop being mad about it.
That's relevant to this movie.
It is!
Because this movie's like third act is them at the Republican convention for his term that he wins, and they're protesting, and it's chaotic.
Hundreds of thousands of American troops and Vietnam civilians and soldiers died because Nixon was in power.
Yeah.
And I will never stop being mad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that they had the protest. Oh, okay. I'm trying to not cry in the middle of the podcast. That's reserved for Pan's Labyrinth. Thank you.
Only Pan's Labyrinth.
Only Pan's Labyrinth will make me cry during the recording and the editing and the movie watching. I loved that part though. Because there were so many veterans. Like a very classic example was like in Forrest Gump. Obviously Forrest goes to Vietnam and then he winds up becoming a protester. But in that movie, the protests felt so toothless. It was like, oh, Vietnam was bad and shrugs. And in this movie, they don't make it toothless at all. These guys are pissed because they understand exactly what's being put on the line, and they're pissed that the government will continue to put it on the line again for no actual reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that they had that. It made me so mad when Nixon's like, oh yeah, let's listen to the real vets as his people are shoving them out the door.
And so like that part really struck with me. I'm not a crier very often, and honestly, my eyes just tear up because that's just some of the injuries I've had.
They get wet.
They do get wet, and I'm cutting onions, and but no, I had an eye injury, so my eyes just kind of tear up every now and then. But that was kind of tearful there. as Ron and quite a few of the vets are going inside, and they're just doing the protests. They're saying, "Hey, listen to us. Stop this war." They're doing the protests, and then you got other Americans who are in this Republican Party that are supposed to be so pro-American,
pro the fucking troops,
pro troops, all that. That's what the Republican Party.
That's the propaganda,
and that's the Republican Party today. Still,
and they don't give a shit about the troops. And they never fucking have.
Yes, they still don't care. Like, they're the only party that didn't. Well, I mean, there's only the two parties, but they're the party that denies all care for veterans. Whenever there's a bill to give them more budget or care or health care or anything, they're the ones that always shut it down. But the part that really just cheesed me off, as these veterans who fought, you got these assholes wearing those stupid fucking hats, yelling at these veterans, calling them traitors and all that, and that really just pissed me off, because
same.
I see that also today. Where, and it's not even necessarily just the veterans today. It's this whole.
No, it's historical.
Well, yeah, it's
even back in World War II, there were veterans from World War II who were saying hey, war fucking sucks actually, and people called them cowards. And exactly. I cannot get behind that.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to say today is the whole division that we have had between the two parties. If you even have a leftist or democratic ideology, the way that the propaganda media from the right puts us as un-American.
Yeah.
And that really fucking pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because I will definitely say I would say I'm more pro-American than the majority of anybody that thinks they're Republican ideologies and all their stuff, because I'm more,
because I'm bought into the actual dream.
Yeah, exactly. I want our country to prosper, I want our people to prosper, but I don't want it to be an effect where we lose ourselves, like the Republican Party, the MAGAs, and all those other right conservatives. They've totally lost their way. And I think Vietnam War, that time period, the Nixon, the Reagan, all that's where that's all that voting those people into power led to this.
Yeah.
To our political
100%.
Our political environment today.
Yeah.
And if people are gonna comment saying I'm wrong, that's your opinion. Absolutely. This is my opinion. This is how I've studied our history, and that's how I see it.
Well, but to me, that was one of the things that made me angry at the beginning, but because Ron Kovic kind of arcs over the course of his life, it galvanized me even further. He keeps saying, as a very young person who's either never been to Vietnam or is freshly back from Vietnam, America, love it or leave it, love it or leave it. And that was a huge thing I remember from 9/11 too, where people were like, if you don't like this country, you can go at any time. And that's the thing, is I want to grab those people by the shoulders and be like, the reason I'm criticizing the country is because I love it so much. When you see a person you love going down a dark path, you don't be like, well, I guess they're just fucked now.
Yeah.
You try to tell them, hey person, I love you. Don't do this. This is bad for you. And that's the way that I feel all the time. I go to protests. I try as hard as I can to do the things that I can. I want to tell this country, you have so much potential.
The start of your analogy there, because it's it's like having that family relative that always makes the dumbest mistakes. And you're like, bro, stop.
Please.
Stop. Learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
History repeats itself. Learn. And that's exactly what this country is going through.
Yeah.
And
that's where I'm at. The saying is love it or leave it.
Yeah.
And I kept screaming at the TV, I love it, and therefore I will not leave it.
Yeah.
Listen, if it becomes fatally dangerous for me to be here, I might have to love it from afar. But I can't imagine being in a position where I'm not still fighting for actual American democracy, for actual freedom, for American citizens, because it means so much to me, and it makes me so angry that some people want to basically take the freedom for themselves and say, here's where the line of freedom ends and everybody else gets to fucking suck it. I cannot with that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much more to it on the surface, but it hasn't fully gotten gotten too dangerous
Not yet.
to be like, oh, do I still want to,
It'll probably only get more dangerous though. I am the kind of person who, when things get bad, I dig in my heels and I go harder. Like, I was perfectly happy to be perceived as like a straight cis quote unquote white person. Until the second Trump inauguration. And then I was like, okay, you want to go hard? Guess what? I'm actually not straight. I'm actually not cis. I'm actually not white. And if they keep pushing, they're going to find out everything about me. I'm so much weirder and more resistant than they think I am. And I know that most of America is too. All of us are so much more complicated than the fucking Republican Party wants us to be.
It's not just America, it's the whole world.
The entire... Thank you, Josh. Good job.
Because I had this conversation, I think the other night, we were talking about kind of the same political stuff and like people's rights and stuff. I was like, I don't understand why America has to be this main, like,
why do we have to be the
attention
center of the world?
Center of the world. We're not it, like, all, like, especially like right now with the whole World Cup. We have so many other people in this country right now celebrating this whole worldly thing.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that are trying to divide everybody. When I'm like, listen, we need to take care of our countries, but you know what? We also have this whole planet, and we're all human beings. And it's, you may be brown and I may be white, and they may be, black, they may be Asian, but guess what? We're all human beings. We have this one planet.
Can we at least agree enough to like not destroy it?
Yeah, that's like a big thing that I wish world leaders would just come to realize. But it's not, because it's control, it's power, it's money from a lot of these world leaders that we freaking keep letting be leaders.
I mean, at the same time, something that I have been trying to balance within myself a lot lately is it's so easy to look at how bad things have gotten over the past, 10 years and think to yourself like, oh, I may as well give up. There's nothing I can do. But the thing is, we are actually in a golden age of peace. We are in a golden age of human health. We are in a golden age of democracy. The thing we're experiencing right now, it feels horrifying. And I don't want to say that it's not horrifying, because it is. But it is a blip. And if we keep fighting, it will get better. I keep thinking back to motherfucking Pan's Labyrinth, where those anti-fascist guys were going up against Franco's fascist government, and it took them 40 years to get Franco out of power. But guess what? They did. We have to keep working. And I thought that this movie was so beautiful. It was, I was prepared to like be laid low by this movie. And instead I felt so galvanized. Yeah. Because those Vietnam vets, they worked their asses off for years.
They did.
And they finally got the change. The Vietnam War ended. We pulled out. We lost. Good. We lost a war we should never have engaged in the first place. They campaigned for better veterans benefits, especially with the VA, and they won. Like, the VA is still not like a bastion of health or anything, but at least there's not like rats and piss in the hallways. The bar's in hell, but hey, we can clear the bar that's in hell now.
Could they still use more? Yes. But like you said,
fighting works.
Protesting works. The using your constitutional rights to stand up to the government does work, as much as they want to. I don't want to use this analogy, but shoot you down. But they will. But if you just persist and stand for your rights,
Well, and something that I thought was really important that I have been having a hard time articulating, that I think this movie kind of helped me bring into focus a little bit, is there's so much focus these days on individual actions. Oh, just don't buy from that company. Oh, just go, you individually go to that protest, whatever. No, you have to collectively act. You have to get together with people in your community and organize to make things happen. Because you, as a single dollar or two, quote unquote, vote with your wallet, you mean nothing compared to a billionaire. But you and all of your fellow people who are actually collectively organized to boycott, and then use the boycott as leverage for actual policy change. Not just, oh, I'm mad about capitalism, but like, here are my demands, policy change. It makes a difference. I'm sorry, I'm like going off the bed right now.
Yeah. No, I
didn't want to be
I totally
patriotic for the 4th of July, and this stupid movie made me patriotic for the 4th of July, and being patriotic to me means being angry at America.
I totally agree with you. I agree with you when you're talking about that whole, vote with your dollar type stuff, because like it does take a more collective than just one person and structure
approach. Yeah.
I do like sometimes seeing on social media they're like, oh, we're doing the blackout, but like I feel like some people don't fall through with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not just that,
but like it's also harder too.
If you do a blackout, it's like your neighbor is coming by your house every day, and like breaking down your door and stealing your stuff. And so what you do is you leave a strongly worded note on his door. That's what a blackout is.
Yeah.
Whereas actual collective action, where you and your community organize not simply to remove the dollars for a day, but to remove the dollars for a year, 2 years, 5 years, by organizing together to fill the gap that had been previously filled by whatever service you're boycotting, and making actual demands as to what you want to see changed. That's the kind of stuff that will actually, like, it goes to your neighbor's house, knocks down his door and says, hey, motherfucker, quit fucking with my house.
Okay, here's a funny thing about something like this. So there was a discussion of a blackout on social media that I had read, and they're talking about people should change their tax information for their paychecks to basically have no taxes taken out, because that's how.
Are they insane?
This is funny because they were saying like, don't let them take taxes out because that's how they fund their taxes, and I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if I agree with that.
Don't refuse to pay taxes. That's a great way to go to jail.
I wasn't refusing.
No, I know. But like for people who are we're gonna refuse to pay taxes because we're not funding ICE. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. If you want to disrupt ICE, there are plenty of community organizations who are out here recording them, alerting their neighbors, making sure everyone knows what their actual rights are.
Yeah.
Do that stuff. Don't put yourself in a bad financial position where the IRS can sue you for
not paying taxes,
thousands of dollars more than you would actually owe because you failed to pay your fucking taxes. Get together with your community. Don't try to do this alone. So much of capitalism is about like, ooh, bootstrap, do it by yourself, blah, blah, blah. And the lie that it has fed us is that we can do things by ourselves.
That's not how it works,
No. Ape together strong.
That's the...
Ape together strong.
That's the old American dream where you work hard. We cannot work hard anymore because of...
Well, and not just that, but like that phrase, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You know where that came from?
Refresh my memory.
It's an old saying about a thing that is impossible to do. You can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Okay. It's a paradox. It's a thing that is not possible for a person to do. So it used to be that the meaning of pick yourself up by your bootstraps is the same thing as like, use a paper cup to fly to the moon. You can't do that. And then a bunch of dickheads co-opted it to mean, a thing that you can do. You can't. Ape together strong, you guys. Ape together strong. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tangent over.
I'm freaking out.
So you had the protests at the Republican convention comes to an end with Ron almost getting arrested.
Oh my gosh, that was so scary.
I was like, you guys serious?
He's literally paralyzed. He was screaming that he's paralyzed.
Yeah, he's yelling, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm in a wheelchair.
Well, and like, especially for us, what is it? That movie came out in 1990, I think you said?
Yeah, 90, yep.
And I'm looking at this in a post, like, George Floyd world and being like, they're going to kill him. Yeah. He will literally die because the police are not going to pay attention to his needs. They're going to suffocate him to death. Yep. What the fuck? Yep. And I was very relieved to discover that didn't happen.
We get a call back to the way he was picked up in Vietnam, because that other veteran comes and pretty much picks him up the exact same way and gets him out of there.
Runs him out of there. And then they all gather. They get him into his chair. They all coordinate.
Yep. Like to
re-protest, retake the convention in a very like battalion style format. Yep. It was really beautiful. Yeah. Also, can I say, I haven't had a good place to bring this up. But one of the things I really liked about this was, I know I commented like during Milk that one of the things that they kind of failed to do was acknowledge that like Black people were involved in gay liberation. And this movie does not shy away from that at all. There are like some of the first people who introduce revolutionary ideas into Kovic's head is the Black nurses at the VA.
Yep.
And we never have any like main Black characters, which is a bit of a shame. But they don't shy away from having these like revolutionary characters who are assisting be Black characters. And I thought that was a really great step, especially for 1990.
The movie really comes to an end. He's about to speak at the Democratic event, but he has, I think it's either he has it or the memory's having the movie's having the flashback of when his mother, when he was younger, saying she had a dream of him speaking to a large group of people and saying great, wonderful thing. And we don't see that in the movie because the movie ends right before he goes.
Yeah.
But since then, I've been wanting to go and like reach out and see more of his stuff.
Yeah. I did do a tiny bit of research, and he has been active basically this entire time.
Yeah.
He fought back against the Gulf War. He fought back against the war in Afghanistan.
Not surprising.
He every single war that America has been involved in, he has been like, hey, what if we didn't have a war?
Do that.
Sir, respect.
Now,
thank you for your service both in Vietnam and as a protester. Invaluable the work this man has done.
And that is the conclusion of the movie. I think I can say for both of us, we really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted. Tom Cruise always blows me away with what a good job he does. I don't want to like Tom Cruise, but I can't help it.
Yeah, it's tough because like he has some really good movies, and then there's times where you're like, I'm not so sure if I like you as a person, but like, dude, you do some good movies.
He can act.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. No, everyone did so great.
I was gonna try to watch it again before we recorded this episode, since we did do a week break.
Yeah.
From when I watched it. I don't know how recent you watched it, but I watched it
yesterday.
But yeah, I would like to watch it again. Maybe next when it is closer to the 4th of July.
Yeah, maybe we'll watch it on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So what are we watching next?
Our next movie is a recommendation from a Patreon.
It's a recommendation from Judy.
Judy! What did she pick?
She picked Out of Africa, which I have currently paused on my TV right now.
I'm about
halfway done.
But that's the next film we are doing, Out of Africa, from 1985.
Yep, it's got Meryl Streep and Robert Redford being just entirely too cute. He needs to stop. Yeah, so that'll be next week. Yep. And then...
So the first Patreon pick. So, Erin, what do you have to do to get a Patreon pick? Here?
I'm so glad that you asked. Yes. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/youhaven'tseen-that-podcast. The $5 a month tier is merely to demonstrate your appreciation, but if you would like to be able to pick one movie per quarter, you can support us at the $10 a month tier. Anyone who supports us at $10 a month or more gets to pick one movie per quarter that we need to work into our schedule.
Very nice.
And Josh, how else can people support us?
How else? Well, by listening and commenting and liking and subscribing to us on YouTube, because obviously that's where you're at right now listening to this. Yeah, so this is where the podcast is on. It's YouTube. I mean, you can listen to it on Patreon. Is correct, right?
You can.
Yeah.
It's actually free on Patreon. Again, the tiers are merely to eventually get bonus content, which I will get out someday.
Yeah.
And also to request specific movies. Oh, actually, another thing I should mention is that for patrons, episodes come out 24 hours in advance. So if you would like these episodes early, then you can support us on Patreon at any amount.
Yeah, because we're pretty steady on a Monday schedule right now,
Monday at noon every single week.
Yeah,
and
so
Patreons get it
Sunday
at noon.
Whoa! I'm not even awake that time. That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, on YouTube, write those comments. I mean, you can put recommendations or picks on there, but doesn't necessarily mean we'll get them.
It'll get added to the list probably, but I can't promise when it'll be done. Whereas if you are a $10 a month or more patron, it will happen during the quarter that you requested it.
Yep, and we also have a couple social media accounts. There's an Instagram and a Facebook. I'm not really doing too much on the Instagram right now. I'm really focused on the Facebook, but you could just search on Facebook, You Haven't Seen That Podcast, which I'm going to make a couple posts here pretty soon because I went and watched the new Supergirl movie last night for their fan event, and I will take some pictures of the cool popcorn tin I got.
Ooh, hell yeah.
And they gave me I saw it on the IMAX screen, so they gave me a cool collectible ticket.
Nice.
Which I was like, wow, a paper ticket.
Nuts.
They don't make those anymore. But yeah, so I post some of the links to the YouTube channel on the Facebook page. You guys can get on there. It's where you can visit us there, comments, send messages, and I'll try to post more things of like we went somewhere, watched a movie, or maybe some hints of what the next movie we're reviewing. I don't know, we'll see.
Strictly speaking, a hint has already been laid for the one that comes for Out of Africa. So
that's very true.
So that's facebook.com/You Haven't Seen That Podcast, and also Instagram.com.
Yeah, Instagram. It's on Instagram. It is yhst.podcast.
Cool beans.
Kind of the same deal, just pictures and more pictures and stuff of us doing stuff or me sharing what movies.
All right, well, I think that wraps it up. So all I gotta say is America, Josh.
Fuck yeah!
Love it or leave it.
Because freedom isn't free.
Josh.
Unless you pay a hefty fucking fee. Sorry, Ron. Thank you for serving.
Thank you, Ron, for all of your service. Every single bit. I appreciate you.